for their stuff?
Yes.
So I was on a webinar, a Zoom call, of course, with my CPA, and it's a big firm. He's a smart guy. It's a new firm for me. I had a really bad one before that everybody said was good. Maybe I just got the bad end of the stick, but I had like 5 bookkeepers in 12 months. It was bad. When I finally quit, I found out that they hadn't updated my books in 8 months. So I had to pay the new accountant an hourly rate to update my books. Anyway, it was bad. So new accountant seems to be pretty with it, and I'm happy after I saw their call. They basically went through everything. The EIDL is separate from the PPP, and we know that like we should. So just in case you don't know, the EIDL, the disaster loan, is a completely separate thing from the Paycheck Protection Program. So those are two separate loan options, both of which I've applied for. I don't think there's any reason. I keep hearing people say, well, you should only apply for one, or if you apply for one, it discounts another. They're separate things. The EIDL is a disaster loan. Think Hurricane Katrina, think 9/11, think a disaster. It's just on a national scale. You have the ability to apply. It's super straightforward. It's very easy. It's like a 5-minute application. And in fact, it's funny because I saw you post that, Master Silva, like, hey, you need to apply for this. And I clicked on it and I was like, what the heck? Like, this is completely different. What had happened originally was they opened it up. It was really hard. The website crashed. So they said, oh, actually, download it all as a PDF, fill it out, and then upload it. And I was like, okay. So I downloaded it, PDF, uploaded. The next day you posted that link and I was like, this is completely different again. So I applied for it again because they realized this is too crazy. They were getting swamped with applications. So the EIDL is really straightforward, really simple, offers you the ability also to apply for or ask for, who knows what the requirements are, a $10,000 grant. It's just a grant, not a loan. You know, I don't know, this isn't like traditional lending. So I don't know what the requirements are. I don't know if they're checking your credit score. Like, you know, I don't know how that's working, but I was surprised at how few questions they asked you. Basically, it was like gross sales. Okay, thanks. Click submit. You know, and then the PPP is separate. So the PPP, just in case anybody's watching and doesn't know, is a loan that's directly through your lender, through your like a private lender. The SBA decided to disperse this funds, or Congress, whatever, decided to disperse this funds through private lenders because they have a better connection with business owners. And from what I understand, bigger banks seem to be having more trouble than smaller banks in terms of getting their operations going, because of course they have millions of customers versus maybe thousands of small business customers. And the PPP, and I can show you my calculations, but basically what that is they're going to give you, theoretically, I still haven't seen the money yet, I've only heard that I got approved, 2.5 times your average last 12 months of payroll. So my average, and that does not include federal taxes. So like if your payroll is 10 grand for the month, well, you know, 2 of that at least is employer contribution towards payroll taxes. It also doesn't include any kind of, we don't do this anyway, but any kind of employer health, you know, benefits, 401ks, things like that. Like you can't say, hey, we paid some health insurance. To my understanding, and this might be different, but to my understanding, it's only the actual compensation that you paid to the employee. So you take that average and then you multiply that by 2.5, and then you have to give the lender supporting documentation. And then the lender submits that through the SBA portal. So on Friday, we'll go ahead.
Just 2.5 times what?
Your average monthly payroll.
Okay.
So my average monthly payroll, let me pull this up so that I can show you guys. Do I have screen share ability here?
Yeah, just the middle button on the bottom.
Okay, so let's see if we can't do that. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes.
Well, we see your screensaver.
Okay, then it's making me, it's gonna have to make me quit and then come back. So I'll be right back. Sorry.
while he's doing that, my bank just put their application out yesterday for it.
Mhm.
And the PPP and the EDIL are on the same application now. Even if you did one set, it asks you specifically to put them together. They want a total. The 10 grand was a advance that they were going to give you on the EIDL or whatever, but they wanted it. Mine said put it together, even if you had already applied for the other one. That was as of yesterday.
What was it, Dave?
I was saying, like, my bank just finally came out with that PPP application yesterday, and it had in there very specifically an application that you do the PPP thing, the 2.5 times the payroll, and then add in the EIDL or whatever. That they wanted that added in there. What you want, what you were looking for that.
That's weird. What bank is it?
Truliant Federal Credit Union.
So one of the things, so some of the confusion and frustration, I think, from private lenders is the government said everything's going down the tubes fast. Congress moved faster than I've ever seen it move in my lifetime. Have you guys ever seen Congress pass something so fast? Like, people were mad that, like, the Democrats held it up for a half hour, then the Republicans held it up for 45 minutes. And I'm like, now we're mad about a half hour? Right, really? You know, I've never seen them move so fast. Anyway, so Congress moves ultra fast, tells the SBA to do all this. They say the quickest way to get it out is lenders. And now they're putting pressure on the banks like, hey, get it done. And the banks are like, whoa. What I understand is when, for example, the 2008 lending crisis, they gave some of the same provisions of money, let lenders do it. Well, lenders got in a lot of trouble because they were feeling pressure from the government to get people money. And then it came back that there were fines and things because they didn't do enough due diligence on the people who they were lending money to. So I think financial institutions are really don't have a lot of guidance in terms of what they will be responsible for should Dave lie on his application. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't blame them, but that is weird that they wanted you to add the EIDL in because you haven't been approved for the EIDL yet, right?
No, but it said it was very clear because I questioned because that was something we all applied for like last week already.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing you did. Like, okay, you did one, went through that whole thing, and then next day it's like, oh, you don't need to do that. Just do this one thing.
Did we say 5 hours of work? Ooh, we meant 5 minutes. Sorry. Yeah. All right. So let me share my screen now that it's going to let me. My computer updated and it's like making me give permissions for everything. Now can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we will. There we go. All right. So my local city has its own relief and recovery fund. It's only like $1.5 million, but I'll see if we can get some of that. We'll see. So I had to submit a bunch of stuff for that. So my PPP, let me see the app. Here's the app that this is the actual. Oh, there we go. This is the actual app that I submitted to my bank, and this is the SBA app. So your lending institution might require more documentation, but this is the app. So I'm the owner, 100% owner. We had a payroll average of $10,797. I'll show you how I calculated that later. And we were, theoretically, I just got a call yesterday that we were approved for the full amount that we requested. The number of employees, I was worried that this right here would have some issues, but I can explain that as well. It's what's called full-time equivalent. No, I've never done any of that stuff, whatever. Page 1, and then let's see page 2. Page 2 is just some initials that, yes, I agree that, you know, whatever, just initial it. Here is the, let me see the email that they went through. Let's see. I went through a bank called Arvis, which is a local bank that I have a small small savings account with. So I happen to already be a customer. I called them because they had a banker that was on with my CPA, who said, hey, we're prepping. We should be ready to receive applications. I was like, okay, great. I called them. The lady said, and I actually did my numbers wrong. If you see there, I had to redo them. And I submitted it. They said, hey, thanks for your application. Bank will be in contact. And then they said, here, you're receiving this. And they said, we want these documents right here, which were completed and signed SBA form, which is the same form for everybody. That's the form that my institution actually gives to the SBA. All quarterly IRS 941s, which I use Gusto for my payroll, so it was really easy to pull those reports. But I'm an S Corp, so I use the 941s and I pay myself a paycheck, so it's going to be a little different if you're an LLC. But you'll still be filing 941s for your employees if you do. Copies of 2019 W-2s for people that do more than 100,000. I don't pay myself more than 100,000 from Motion Tulsa, so it wasn't a concern for me. And that can screw you up. They don't cover, you can't use the PPP to pay any one employee more than $100,000 a year. So just FYI, if you are paying yourself a salary more than that, you're not going to get forgiven for the loan, or for that amount for the loan. If businesses want to include employee paid benefits in the calculation, you have to provide documentation. Now, so it was my original understanding that you couldn't include those, but now it's saying if you want to show us the documentation. So maybe those are includable. I'm not 100% sure. If a third-party payroll processor is used, please provide a 2019 summary report of payroll activity. And what that is show us that you're not calculating it on your iPhone, that if you're using a third party, they're generating a report, we will trust you more. And I think that's why my application went so fast, because it said Gusto on the top of it, and it was very clearly a report. So the reports that I then pulled were, so here's what I did. Here's what I calculated on my own. I literally calculated this all out before, oops, that's not it. There it is. Before Gusto gave me the real report, and I wasn't too far off. This is what I did. I literally did this Friday morning and submitted it, or Thursday morning in preparation to submit it. So each pay period, I calculated it out. I took out the employer tax contribution, and here's my net payroll. Then I took that total net payroll, I divided it by 12, and this is what I got, 2.5 times. I submitted this. Then Gusto, let me see if I can find a Gusto. I really like Gusto, by the way. It really is pretty simple. They submit all your documentation for you. They used to mail out W-2s. They don't do it anymore, but you can mail them out yourself. Reports, and then it said paycheck loan program report. I pulled that wherever that is. I pulled that paycheck report, and I sent it. Here it is. So there's my updated application with Gusto's numbers, and then Motion Tulsa third-party report. So this is the report that Gusto sent me. It said, hey, here it is. Here's the amount. And then current jobs, meaning you had 11 employees that were calculated in this total. So the issue there, though, is that they're what's called full-time equivalent employees. So if I have one employee that's on 40 hours a week and that's full-time, but I have two employees each at 20 hours a week, those two combine together to make 40, and now I have two full-time equivalent employees. So when I did my actual calculation here, I really only had 4.5 full-time equivalent employees because of my because most of my people are part-time. I submitted all my 941s. We don't have to look at those. And then I submitted a list. They also asked for a list of all the employees. And I didn't just list them. I listed them with what their hours actually were. I can't get rid of this damn screen. There we go. I submitted it with what their actual hours were, so that the bank knew that I was, that where my 4.5 full-time equivalents were, that's where I was getting it from. And I don't think the bank looked at the full-time equivalent necessarily, but I know that to get it forgiven, which I don't believe the government's going to forgive it in the first place. Like, we'll see. But to get it forgiven, you have to maintain that level of full-time equivalent employees. So you can't take the money and then pay it all to yourself as one employee and then have them forgive that amount. They're not gonna stand for that. You have to maintain that over the next 8 weeks. So what I'm gonna do, like, I'm not gonna hire back all my part-time instructors that were teaching 2 classes if we don't have classes. I'm gonna give more hours to my team members who can help us do things that we need done, if that makes sense. So it's a lot of information. What questions do you guys have? I think you're muted.
I was just saying that covered everything I was curious about.
Okay, yeah.
But because I've only done that initial one.
Okay.
I haven't done that one.
Yeah. And I don't know the bank. So the banker that called me said I don't think he was in the mood to joke around. I was trying to use humor to make the situation have a little more levity to the situation, and I don't think he followed me. But he called and he said, "Hey, I want to let you know that we got approval." Here's what his words were: "We have approval for the full amount that you requested in your PPP, although we don't yet have a way to distribute the funds." So, like, banks are working overtime to try to figure out how to get that money from the SBA, get it to their people. And he was saying, so we don't have that figured out yet. And I was joking around and I said, "Oh, you mean nobody knows what's going on and it's all insane?" And I think he meant, like, I was pointing that at Arvist, and I'm like, no, like, and I realized I was like, no, what I mean is, it's just kind of crazy, and you know, I'm sure you guys are feeling the pressure. And he was like, yeah. Anything else? And I'm like, no, sorry.
Let me get off the phone. That's all. He just wants off the phone.
Yeah, please give me my money and don't make a mark on my account. Back in the day when I was working at Blockbuster, we used to make notes if somebody was mean. When I was working at Blockbuster, I'm dating myself. I'm not that old, but we would make big, like, notes. And, like, this person was a jerk, you know, yelled at me for not rewinding or whatever. And it would pop up when they tried to check out a new movie. It would pop up and it'd say, like, "Don't even be nice to this guy. He's such a jerk," or whatever. And I feel like that's what's going to happen to me at the bank now. I'm going to try to open an account and it's going to be like, "Don't even open an account for this guy." And I'm going to yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if the New York situation is different. Like, everything you showed me, like, I filled out 2 things that were different. I just sent that same form to my CPA, so I'm gonna have him look at it because he has my numbers. So we just started working the last 2 years together, so he has my stuff faster than I can get it. Mm-hmm. We did 2 already, but I'm looking at my website. I filled out the one. My status says there's like a status on mine, and mine says the status says what's it called? It says new. That's all it says.
What website?
I can go there right now.
Are you talking about, like, SBA or like?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I don't even know. I do know that there's a lot of confusion that the EIDL is direct through the government, and the PPP is from the government to your bank to you. And it's not just your bank. I bank at Bank of Oklahoma with most of my accounts, but let me tell you, they closed one of my accounts because they got return mail. And so when I tried to access the account, I couldn't access it. And I called them and they were like, "Oh, that account's closed." And I'm like, "What do you mean that's closed?" And they're like, "Oh, we got return mail." And I'm like, "What?" I figured it out. They misspelled my street name when they created the account. And so they just closed it. I'm like, I have like 15 other accounts. You could have called me. Like, I'm not messing with Bank of Oklahoma in terms of, like, this new stuff. So I went just to Arvis because they haven't messed anything up for me. So, like, you don't have to you find the bank that's doing the fastest stuff. I started getting ads in my news feed on Tuesday or Wednesday for a local bank that said, it didn't say that we could process PPPs, but it said, like, we're ready, you know, once it's available, we'll be ready for you, or whatever it was. So, you know, I'm sure they're ready to collect some fees. And
yeah, I did that SBA one. It's New York, you know, Small Business Services. That one I did. And then I did another one, which for some reason I never got an email back. They sent me the number. I'm having my guy do it again just in case it didn't work.
Okay. But you're talking about New York. None of this has to go through a state government. So you may be getting help from a New York administration, but it doesn't have to go through that.
Yeah, I just sent that same form, the one that you filled out, to my guy.
Okay.
So hopefully he fills it out today. And I guess
Okay.
I have 3 applications out, and this other one I got a number for, but I don't know where it's gonna go. It's the one for the $10,000 straightforward.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's what Greg had us do.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I think some people are confused about as well. So let's make sure that everybody understands the loan forgiveness as well as I understand it. Please understand that I could be saying it wrong, but when I was like not live tweeting, so I'm not on Twitter, but when I was like updating what my accountant was telling me, people were like, well, that's not what my accountant told me. And it's like, well, the banker just read from the act. He's like got the act here. And the banker just read from it. So you might want to ask your CPA for a refund or something, you know? So the loan forgiveness, there's the EIDL, that's a loan. And you can request up to a $10,000 grant. But it's up to, I don't know that it's actually going to be given. I don't know what that is. But the EIDL is just a loan. And you can repay it over 30 years, to my understanding. And it's like can't be more than 4% interest or something to that effect. The PPP is a loan, but has a repayment of 2 years at up to 1% interest. That's another thing that the lenders pushed back to the Treasury Department, wanted to have the percentage at 0.5%, and lenders were like, "No way, dude! It's got it." Congress authorized, I think, up to 2%, and the Treasury Department said give them a 1.5%, and banks said, "Hey, can we settle on 1%?" And so they're on 1% right now. But you have 2 years to repay that. However, as long as you use that money in 8 weeks to keep your full-time equivalent employees, theoretically, that gets forgiven. So, and you only have to use 75% of that for payroll. So let's say not all of your people want to come back and they're like, dude, I'm not interested in coming back to COVID-19 for $10 an hour. Okay, no problem. I can spend up to 25% of that on utilities and rent. So there's some other things, but so I can pay 75%. I can literally do the calculations and say, hey, motion team members, here's how many hours exactly you're going to get. Clock out when you're supposed to clock out. And then I'll put the rest of that towards my other utilities. Additionally, one of the big suggestions that everybody's had is create a separate checking account when you do get approved for that, so that it's very easy to show your lending institution and your government where that money went. Don't just put it in the big pot with everything else. Put it in a separate account. Like, I'm going to put mine in a separate account. I'm going to take the 25% of it, literally calculate it, put that in a separate account, and then I'm going to have my payroll be deducted out of the 75%. And then I'm just going to give the 25% to my landlord and say, please don't kick me out. You know?
I know that I went to contacted 3 different banks based on recommendations. Like, hey, these guys are great to work with. They all told me they could do it, but they won't. They want you to go with your own lender. They want you to go somebody that you've got a track record with. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And that is so when Arvis sent out their information, it said if you are not a current client, please fill out this new client form. And I imagine those people got pushed to the back of the line. This is a good reason to have bank accounts at multiple institutions.
Yeah.
You know, I have bank accounts at Bank of Oklahoma. I have bank accounts at Arvest with 2 different business entities. First of all, I don't have that much freaking money. Don't pretend like they're all full. They've all got like $1,000 in them at the most. And then I have online accounts, like personal online accounts and things like that. So, and I heard some real angry people at Bank of America, where Bank of America only accepted loans. And of course they came back the next day and pretended like this wasn't true. But I believe my martial arts school owner friends, where they were only allowing people who had open credit accounts to apply for loans. That way they knew that those people would stay solvent. And it's like, you guys are just, just snaky. Not that I wouldn't do the same thing if I was Bank of America CEO, but I'm just saying it pissed off a lot of small business owners who then took their business elsewhere. So, yeah.
Has anybody heard anybody getting the unemployment deal? The extra $600 tacked up on, or getting any unemployment benefits yet for anybody?
Have you guys applied?
I haven't. No.
I did.
I don't even know if I'm going to get the stimulus money because I'm probably either make too much or like owe the IRS something, or who knows. Like, I never think I'm going to get any of that stuff. You know what I mean? So I'd be interested when those come through. But I don't know. Does it count if you still have a small business that you're working on? You probably don't. I'm not an expert in that. So do you even you're bringing in income? You know, not that much.
Well, the business is, but that doesn't mean you're going to have, you're paying yourself anymore.
Yeah. Well,
I opened last year, so it looks like I make more money now when I'm not. I was making nothing. Now I'm making a little bit of something, but still nothing.
I mean, have you heard from anybody that you laid off, or that any of your employees that they started collecting yet?
Well, we furloughed ours instead of laying them off because I was hoping that we would have this PPP come through, and it has. So we'll bring some of them back. We'll bring certain key team members back, and then we'll lay the other ones off. But none of them were full-time. We're not laying off any full-time people, and that's a big difference. You know, if you were full-time employed, I got college students too. You know, only got one person over 40 that I employ. So,
William, have you heard anything on that initial 10,000?
nope, I have not heard anything. Again, to my knowledge, rumblings are it's supposed to just show up in your bank account. Because if you remember, you had to put the EIDL on that. You had to put your numbers on that, which was a little scary for me. But it's supposed to just. Did you guys see the reports about small business owners opening up the application to fill it out and it already having somebody else's information in the application?
No, wow.
Nuts. It only happened for, I think, 6 or 7 hours. But they interviewed a couple of people who were like, yeah, I got a call from a bed and breakfast in Rhode Island who was like, hey, your information is in my application. I thought you should know. Like, holy crap. So, yeah, they have some serious issues. And, of course, they pretend, no, that never happened. What are you talking about? So
I did see where I have some accounts at Bank of America, and they had, like, within 4 minutes after everything was settled, they had over 22,000 applications.
yeah, I think it was Wells Fargo opened applications 24 hours before and had like 1 million or something like that. So, and that's why our institution went faster, is because like it said email them to an email address. That can't be very efficient. You know what I mean? So,
oh, yeah, sure.
You know, so they didn't even have like an online portal. It just said, hey, send it to chris@arvis.com. And I'm like, are you sure?
Chris is hating everybody right now.
Yeah. And you know what? I think it was Chris that called me too. He's probably like, get off the phone. Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. This is all uncharted territory. I can't believe we're going to make it though. We'll have some black belt stick-to-itiveness, perseverance.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
You had messaged Jerry about videos. He's been out with strep throat for a week.
Oh, okay.
So he's going to do some, and he should be back today or tomorrow.
All right.
He's through his Zithromax, so he should be back. But
Good.
yeah, he had a bout with it. I told him, I kept telling him, you sure it's not COVID-19? Can't come to the school for 6 months if it is. So anyway, I don't know if he let you know that, but I was just giving you a heads up.
Good.
Any other clarification that we need, Master Silva?
No, I think it's real good. Thank you very much.
All right, bye guys.
Guys.
Thank you, William.
All right, I'll message you, William. Thanks.
Okay, no, I'm listening. I'm sorry. What was it?
No, I put a thing on yesterday about people selling intros or doing free intros.
I meant to ask you, I keep seeing everybody say, I got 17 intros. I haven't seen anybody say I got 17 new students.
Yeah. I talked to one person yesterday who went through like 50 intros and he got 3 signups. So
Yeah.
he was trying to automate everything. He never even personally talked to this person. Everything was done through automatic emails. So there's so many variables, but we're going to figure it out.
I'm doing, I asked you, William, I think about that profit generator.
Right.
So what I did was a video about online classes, and then the profit generator has a week free, 6 weeks, $19.95 down, $19.95 a week, 6 weeks, $99 paid in full, you get a free uniform, and then there's also an option for them to buy a uniform.
You know what?
We sold 6 of those yesterday.
6 of which?
6 of the $19.95 a weeks.
I was just about to say, I bet if there's ever been a time for weekly payments, it's now. I am not a weekly payment kind of guy. I think that attracts people who can only pay weekly, and then they can't pay. And then what do I got to kick that kid out on Monday and say you didn't pay? But boy, now would be the time.
Yeah. So we'll see. That ad's only been running about 27 hours. So
I'm interested. Well, and I really don't love, like, you're talking about automation, Grandma Silva, I really don't love the free, because even if you just say your first class is $1, then you've captured through Rainmaker their info, and you can just convert them. You know, that's what I used to do for kickboxing, but I'm not even going to bring my kickboxing program back. We're done with this. I'm done. I'm done with adults. They're so whiny and complaining. But they are, man. You tell an 8-year-old to bend their knee and they're like, yes, sir. You tell a 28-year-old and he's like, nah, you know. Like, you just roll them over. You just convert them, right? So you just like you got all their information, have them fill out a long form, just in case you don't know what that is on Profit Generator, short form versus long form. Have them fill out a long form. Then when you're ready to, you can just say, do it. You can just create a membership form. You can even send them the membership link to sign online. So I like the $1 or $19.95 down, $19.95 a week. That's pretty cool. I like that. And then with Rainmaker, you can just bill them weekly, right?
Right.
Hey, we're going to have this figured out by the time we're healthy and ready to go back.
That can't be soon
Let's
enough.
talk about this next week.
All right.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.